She tried to hide her hunger, yet the single dad saw everything. It happened in the quiet corner of a small-town grocery store in Oregon, where soft fluorescent lights hummed above a world full of people too distracted to notice the pain of others. But Lucas Carter noticed. He always did. Maybe it was the instinct you develop when life has bent you, broken you, and rebuilt you more than once. Or maybe it was simply the quiet whisper of humanity that wakes up when you see a child's suffering reflected in another adult's eyes. Either way, the moment he saw her thin coat, tired eyes, and trembling hands hovering over a discounted loaf of bread, he knew something was wrong, something deep, something unspoken. And that unspoken thing pulled at him with a force he hadn't felt in years. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe kindness and second chances still matter in this world, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Her name was Emily Dawson. At first glance, she looked like someone who had fallen behind in life's relentless race, but when Lucas looked closer, he saw something else. A quiet strength. A bravery shaped not by victories, but by survival. She held the loaf of bread the way someone holds something they desperately need but are ashamed to admit they can't afford. Her eyes flickered around the aisle, not with the arrogance of someone trying to steal, but with the humiliation of someone who believed they had no right to ask for help. Lucas had seen the same look once in the mirror, back when he lost his wife, Melissa, and struggled to keep food on the table for his daughter, Lily. He still remembered the nights he skipped dinner so Lily wouldn't have to. Emily's trembling, hungry hesitation sliced through him like a memory sharpened by sympathy. Lucas pretended to browse the shelves, but his heart was pounding in a way that surprised him. It wasn't attraction. It wasn't pity. It was recognition, that raw recognition that comes when you see someone fighting a battle life never taught them how to win. He noticed the way Emily wiped her hands on her jeans as if trying to erase the evidence of struggle. He noticed the way she shifted her weight, clutching her small, worn-out purse close to her body. And he noticed the way her stomach tightened. He heard it, actually, the faintest, heartbreaking growl that made her freeze in shame. She hoped no one heard. But he did. The next moment unfolded in slow motion. She placed the bread back on the shelf, as if convincing herself she didn't need it. As if telling her body to wait just one more day. She tried to appear casual, composed, but her face betrayed her, pale, exhausted, defeated. Lucas took a breath, torn between stepping forward and respecting the boundaries of a stranger. He didn't want to embarrass her. He didn't want to cross a line. But more than anything, he didn't want to walk away knowing he could have helped but didn't. As Lucas stood there, Lily tugged his sleeve. His little girl, 6 years old, brown curls bouncing, bright hazel eyes full of innocence, looked up at him with a question already forming. She had noticed Emily too. Children always see what adults overlook. Lily's gaze softened with curiosity and concern, and Lucas felt a protective instinct awaken. Not just for his daughter, but for Emily. He gave Lily a gentle nod, silently telling her everything was okay, though he wasn't sure it was. Not for Emily, anyway. Emily took a few steps away from the shelf, the weight of unspoken hunger clinging to her every move. Her boots were worn thin, her steps slow, and her shoulders slumped in a way that made her look smaller than she was. Lucas watched her leave the aisle, but the image stayed with him, the quiet desperation of someone trying to keep their dignity intact even when life had stripped almost everything else away. He continued shopping, but his mind was far from the cart. He thought about the early months after Melissa's death. How he had worked double shifts as a mechanic while juggling grief and fatherhood. How some nights he cried in the bathroom with the water running so Lily wouldn't hear. How he learned to turn pain into patience, loneliness into strength, and fear into faith. And maybe that's why seeing Emily hurt more than he expected. Because he knew how it felt when life backs you against a wall with no one to notice. When Lucas reached the checkout, he spotted her again. She stood at a self-checkout machine with only a small carton of milk and a bruised apple, nothing else. She scanned the items slowly, hesitation flickering across her face again when she opened her purse. Her lips pressed tightly together, the corners trembling, and Lucas realized she was counting coins. Real coins. Not bills, not cards. Coins. The kind people throw into car cup holders and laundry machines. She whispered something to the cashier who had stepped over to help, something Lucas couldn't hear but could guess. Then she shook her head, canceled the transaction, and placed the items on the return shelf. Her hunger wasn't the only thing she was trying to hide. She was trying to hide the fact that she couldn't afford basic food. Lucas felt something twist inside him. Compassion mixed with ache, empathy tangled with helplessness, and a strange, unexpected sense of responsibility washed over him. He paid for his groceries, gathered Lily, and headed toward the exit, but he couldn't shake the image of Emily's trembling hands. When they stepped outside, the icy wind of early winter brushed against them, and he noticed Emily sitting alone on a bench near the parking lot. Her hands were buried in her sleeves, her head slightly bowed, and her stomach tightened once more. He could see it through her curled posture. Cars passed by. People walked around her. Nobody stopped. Nobody looked twice. The world kept rushing, too busy to acknowledge someone quietly breaking. But Lucas stopped. Not because he was a hero. Not because he thought he could save her. But because he remembered what it felt like when a stranger showed him kindness just once, a warm meal offered by a coworker when he was too ashamed to admit he hadn't eaten all day. That one act had changed everything for him. And maybe, just maybe, he could pass that same miracle forward. He approached the bench slowly, carefully, still mindful of her dignity. He didn't sit at first. He simply stood nearby, pretending to tie Lily's scarf while allowing Emily the chance to speak if she wanted to. She didn't. She was too lost in her silent struggle. But he noticed the tears she blinked away, her breath catching in her chest as if she were fighting off memories no one else could see. Her pain was silent but heavy, like a storm cloud that refused to move on. Lucas finally sat down, leaving enough distance so she wouldn't feel crowded. He didn't ask what was wrong. He didn't point out the obvious. Instead, he offered a gentle, human presence, the kind that says I see you without using the words. Lily, unaware of adult boundaries and unspoken rules, sat beside Emily with the innocent curiosity of a child. She reached into their grocery bag, pulled out a granola bar, and placed it on Emily's lap. Not with pity. Not with awkwardness. But with the pure, uncomplicated kindness of a child who sees hunger and responds with compassion. That was the moment Emily broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Her eyes simply filled with tears that she could no longer hold back. Her lips trembled, and her hands shook so fiercely she almost dropped the granola bar. But she didn't eat it immediately. Instead, she held it like it was something fragile, something sacred, something that reminded her she still mattered. That she was still seen. Her quiet sobs carried a weight Lucas felt down to his bones. He knew that sound, the sound of someone holding their life together with trembling fingers. He finally spoke softly, offering reassurance without intrusion, and he watched as Emily gathered enough strength to breathe again. She told him bits and pieces, nothing dramatic, just fragments of truth. She had lost her job 2 months ago. Her landlord had evicted her when she couldn't keep up with rent. She was staying in her car, interviewing for whatever work she could find, but the winter cold was making everything harder. And through it all, she kept saying the same thing: she didn't want to burden anyone. Lucas listened with a heart heavy but hopeful. He knew what burden felt like. He also knew what grace felt like. And he understood, more deeply than most, that asking for help isn't weakness, it's courage. Over the next few days, he checked on her, bringing hot meals, warm blankets, and eventually offering her a temporary place to stay, not out of charity, but out of shared humanity. Emily resisted at first, refusing to feel like a burden. But Lily adored her, and Lucas reassured her that everyone needs help sometimes. The small guest room became a shelter for more than just her body, it became a shelter for her hope. As winter deepened, so did the bond between them. Their evenings were filled with quiet conversations, warm dinners, and moments that felt like healing stitched together with kindness. Emily laughed for the first time in months. Lucas found companionship he didn't know he had been missing. And Lily, sweet Lily, found in Emily a gentle, nurturing presence she welcomed with an open heart. But Emily never forgot where she came from. She kept working toward finding stability again. She applied for jobs constantly, never expecting Lucas to carry her. And one afternoon, she received the call